There we go. Do this. And we are live. Welcome back in the house, rocking with you, bringing you the preview this year's AFC North. We call it the blender. We'll break down all four teams, who came, who went, predictions. Before we do that, let's welcome my A1 from 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Enter the win.
Nothing. Ready to talk football. Apparently, this is also the subject of Hard Knocks, and in season, the entire division. So a new kind of take on it. I love Hard Knocks. I didn't like it when it was the Raiders, but I do like Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks is dope. You know what I mean? It gives you a real insight to a lot of things that most people who are watching football have no idea about. I mean, I worked for the NFL for a little while, so I know some things. I got to see some behind-the-scene things. I like Hard Knocks. Usually it's for a bad team. So this year it's going to be the Bears, which is going to be interesting because I think the Bears are on the come-up. So we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, the NFL has been real interesting this offseason, man. It doesn't seem like there has been really a whole lot of dead air. Even with nothing happening, a lot of things seem to be coming out day in and day out, whether it's, Hard Knocks or potential sale of Kansas City Chiefs moving to another state or, this person's
Son Reddick.
Dude, yeah. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, where is he? Like I keep saying.
They're such a mess, man. I talked about that. We'll talk about that later, but I kind of predicted that.
Yeah, they're a mess. But the NFL is 24/7, 365, man. People are like, what are you talking about on your podcast? I'm like, pick up a freaking computer and watch, man. There's no shortage of information. But today is all about the AFC North. Spencer, I'm going to let you start this off, and we'll bust it up. Who do you want to go first?
Yeah, let's talk about, let's see here, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Why not? This is my buddy's team, so I'm very familiar.
Yeah, this is Kevin's team. This is Kevin's team. Kevin came on during the NFL live draft, and he pontificated and professed his love and what he thought was happening with this team. Before we even get started, let me just say I think the AFC North this year is going to be the best division in all of football, Spencer.
No doubt.
All four of these teams are
always a competitive division.
It's always a competitive division. I mean, as much as I want the AFC West to be the best division in football, it's just not. The AFC West is what the AFC North is, what I want them to be. You know what I mean? The North is they're just murderers, man. So I'll let you start off on the Steelers and I'll jump in.
Yeah, I mean, the big change, of course, is at the quarterback position. They jumped ship fairly early, I guess, with Kenny Pickett. I ultimately think it was the right decision for them, but still bold. A lot. You don't see franchises do that very often. When you draft someone in the first round, it's like 3 or 4 years at least before you bring in competition. It's usually a whole process, and it made it seem like that's maybe what they were going to do by bringing in Wilson. And then the reports kind of came out, I think, that Kenny Pickett, I mean, who knows how valid they are, but essentially came out that Kenny Pickett didn't want to be a part of a competition. So they ended up trading him to the Eagles. Is it a huge upgrade? I mean, you want to talk about experience for sure. Russell Wilson is another year older. He did have a pretty good season last year before they didn't let him play. He wasn't benched because he wasn't playing well. I mean, I think at the very least you can say, especially towards the end, when they weren't necessarily making a run. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but they were stringing together some wins with him at the end, or he was really starting to pick it up, 2-3 touchdowns a game. Then they sat him, obviously, to see what they had in Jared Stidham. I mean, it's so gross. So now he gets a new start. He obviously has a pretty good team here. Now, they did lose Deontay Johnson, which I know he's a head case, but he was also a very talented wide receiver. Is Van Jefferson really going to be that good to replace him? I mean, I'm not sure. I know they have George Pickens, so I feel like this may be one of their weaker years of offensive weapon sets. But, of course, they always lean on their defense. They picked up Patrick Queen, who I really like. Actually, I wanted the Raiders to draft him all those years ago. He was one of my favorite linebackers from that draft class. And he actually ended up slipping pretty far. He fell to the Ravens. So they pick up a division rival, which kind of happened a lot in the AFC North, as we'll come to find out, that a lot of in-division switching between positions. So overall, I think like, I think they got marginally better, but I actually think that's going to take them a far way. I mean, they're always kind of like one of those Raider type teams, it seems like recently, where, they're not going to have a bad season. They're also going to have like an 8-win season, a 9-win season, just not enough to put you over the hump. So I think getting marginally better may give them that 10th win and, into the playoffs. And yeah, it's not a team you want to play in the playoffs, defensively. Like, they've won the Steelers games countless times, man. Just defensive plays. I can think of a myriad of ones last year, like that Lamar Jackson pick and, a block punt here and there. And all those things really matter. Like, it's a game of inches, and the Steelers definitely play on the margin.
Yeah, no, I like a lot of what you said. I will disagree with a couple things, but before I start, I just want to say that, I'm a big supporter of giving people their flowers, and Mike Tomlin deserves his flowers, man. I mean, I've said this numerous times on this show. I mean, to have survived, Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell in and of itself, and still have a job, and to still, always have winning seasons, with all the dissension that those two clowns brought to the Steel City, deserves nothing short of a Nobel Peace Prize. And I'm a big Tomlin supporter. I am one of the few people that believe that the Steelers are going to be better this year. I think they're going to be better for a lot of different reasons. Number one, I don't think Russell Wilson is as bad as people think. And if it doesn't work out, you've got Plan B and Justin Fields. I think going out and getting these two guys is absolutely so important to what the Steelers are trying to do. Because if you can't push the ball down the field, you can't win in this league. And Kenny Pickett stinks. I mean, I told you this. I told Kevin this too. The Steelers took Kenny Pickett because he went to Pitt. Period. End of statement. I have more faith in a guy like Sam Darnold to be ever good again in this league than I do Kenny Pickett ever being good. You know what I mean? Like the guy who got traded from the Jets and went to Denver. What's his name? I have more faith in that guy, than I do in Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett's a bum. So these are complete and total upgrades. I think drafting Troy Fontenot from Washington was a great move because you got to solidify this line because now you bring in Arthur Smith. And what does Arthur Smith like to do? He likes to run the ball. And they have two starting running backs. Najee Harris is slimmed down. They didn't pick up that fifth-year option. So he is going to be highly motivated to be a good player this year because he wants a contract from somebody. If it's not going to be the Steelers, it's going to be someone. And Jaylen Warren is as good as anyone. I think he's a poor man's Austin Eckler. So they're going to run the ball. And their defense is solid. Now, people forget about a guy like Pat Freiermuth, who is very, very, very good in the red zone. And now he's got a quarterback that can throw on the ball. And then you have a speedster like Calvin Austin III, who really didn't get his chance last year. He's going to get his chance this year with Deontay Johnson gone. Deontay Johnson was a head case. He's Antonio Brown Jr. I mean, maybe not as bad because there's no CTE there, but let him go to the Carolina Panthers. Fine. All that guy did was complain. I think when people think who's going to be the surprise team this year in the National Football League, I think it could be the Steelers here. I mean, let's be honest. How many times have we seen the Steelers go to Buffalo in round one and get their doors blown off? It happens like every year. Dude, are the Buffalo Bills any good, though? You know what I mean? Like, where would the Steelers go this year in a wild card round? I don't think it would be Buffalo. And I think when you're not facing a Terminator like Josh Allen, you now have a chance for someone. I haven't looked at their schedule. We'll pull it up here in a second and go game by game. But I think that making the playoffs is on the table for this team simply because their defense is good. Highsmith is good. You already know about Watt. They're not a bad team. They're well coached, and they are going to run the ball. It's a motivational year for a lot of people, and we keep hearing about the George Pickens breakout. Now, that guy's a real head case. But, boy, the talent is there. And now they actually got someone that can get on the ball. So plan A, Russ, doesn't work. Plan B, Justin Fields. Guys, that can't be any worse than what they were working with last year. It can't be any worse. And they had a lot of injuries last year. You know what I mean? Now you got a second-year, guy in Joey Porter Jr. That first year of experience is huge. Now you run him back. I think they're going to be a lot better than people think. I mean, this is the black and blue division, and there's going to be a lot of heavyweight fights. But if they come out of a lot of these heavyweight battles, versus the Browns, versus the Ravens, at least splitting, at least getting the ones in their building, or maybe stealing one of those 3 teams, the Bengals on the road. Watch out for the Steelers, man. No one thinks that they're going anywhere. I have a funny feeling that they could actually be pretty decent here. They open up September 8th versus Atlanta. Do we really know what Atlanta is going to be? You know what I mean? We don't know yet.
No, it's probably the best time to play them for sure.
That's the perfect time to play them because there's a whole lot of new moving pieces. It could take a while for that to really form. Then they got the Broncos. They should be able to beat the Broncos in Mile High. The Broncos stink. Then they're home for their home opener versus a brand new Charger team flying 3,000 miles across the country. Like, the Steelers legit could be 3-0 here. Now we got on the road versus the Colts. I'll give them a loss there. The Colts are going to be a lot better. Colts play tough at home. And here's the deal. Are we going to get Anthony Richardson? That's the next Cam Newton. You know what I mean? They'll have a 3-game window here to warm up here after that injury. That's a tough game. Colts are going to be tough. Colts are going to be tough. They're going to be tough, Spencer. Cowboys in their building. That's a coin flip game. I've seen this team go to Vegas and win before, and that was not even that good. Was it last year they came to Vegas and won, or the year before? I mean, that's a winnable game. You may not think so, but they're similar types of D-line teams with the better quarterback and the better running game potentially being in Pittsburgh and the better coach. I could see them winning that game too. The Jets, Sunday Night Football at home, terrible towels. I'm giving them that game too. Giants, I'm giving them that game too. Literally, we're looking at a
pretty
Pittsburgh Steelers team. Soft. Charmin soft. Okay, Charmin soft for the first 6 or 7 games. This is what I'm saying. Then they roll into their bye. They come out. They play the Commanders on the road. I will say the Commanders will find a way to win that game because every year there's one of those games, right? There's always one of these games where, like, that's an absolute W that they lose. Last year, everyone was telling me how the Rams were going to beat the Steelers. I'm telling you, the Steelers are going to go there. They're not only going to cover, they're going to win the game, and that's exactly what happened. The Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Kyron Williams, Matthew Stafford-led Rams lost to a team that was horrible, flying 3,000 miles across the country. So it could happen here. I'm going to give them that loss there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give them a loss again with the Ravens in that building. They're not going to win every home game. The Ravens are going to be coming for blood after what happened at home versus Kansas City. Then they take the Browns on the road. That's going to be another L. Browns are tough at home, man. I don't think people recognize they're a different team when they play in their building. Then they're going to go to Cincinnati. This is where the schedule gets hard. I think they're going to win this game.
They got to front load the beginning part of this.
They got to front load.
They can't take bad losses. Can't lose to the Giants.
They can't.
I don't think they can lose to the Colts either.
I don't think so either, but I think they can win this game on the road to Cincinnati. I think they're going to come back and they're going to get the revenge 2 out of 3 with the Cleveland Browns here. Then they go to the Eagles. I think they'll lose to the Eagles. I think they're going to turn around and lose again to the Ravens. I think the Ravens will probably sweep them after them beating the Ravens to death in that one game last year. I think they're going to beat the Chiefs on Christmas Day. I really do. I mean, I don't want to say it, but I could just see it. You know what I mean? The Chiefs are going to be playing 3 games in 10 days, and then one of them's on the road Christmas Day. I mean, I don't care what anyone says, 3-peat or not, Patrick Mahomes or not, you're not going to win every game in the National Football League, and this is a better Pittsburgh team. And then I think they close it out at home. I could see them beating the Bengals again, but that's a coin flip game to go to the playoffs. I mean, that's 6 losses? You know what I mean? 11-6? Okay, 10-7. That's still wild card.
Oh, I say at least 10 wins for them right now.
I can see 10 wins. I could see 10 wins. Whatever their win total is, I probably would bet the over. I'm telling you guys, the Steelers are better than you think. They've gotten better. They drafted well. They've got ancillary pieces that didn't get a shot last year. They're going to get a shot this year, and now they have a quarterback.
All right, we can jump over into the next team. That might as well get this one out because I'm just not as excited about them. It's the Cleveland Browns. I mean, on paper, right? They switch out their linebacking core for the best. Okay, I like Devin Bush. I like Jordan Hicks. I actually Well, I love Jerry Jeudy coming out of college. I could
Me
not
too.
believe
I love
like
Jerry Jeudy.
what happened to him when he got to the league. I thought he would instantly just be like a Pro Bowler receiver, but obviously that was wrong. But the big problem for him, it's like you can kind of talk about the Browns however you want and in whatever capacity that you want. At the end of the day, their quarterback's Deshaun Watson, and they paid him a boatload of money, and they're on the books for him. They gave him guaranteed money. A guy who deserves guaranteed money, maybe the least out of any quarterback in the NFL, because he hasn't been playing well. I mean, just plain and simple, he has not been playing well since he's been to Cleveland. I've seen a couple of games. I've also seen a lot of horrible games from him. So is this going to be the season that he magically puts it all together? I mean, I just personally, I doubt it. So I'm a little bullish on them, despite the fact that the rest of their team is actually quite good. Like from top to bottom, they make smart trades. They get great playmakers. Besides the fact that Deshaun Watson hasn't played very well, he also hasn't stayed healthy. I mean, this guy has, it's always something with him, right? It's always something, whether it's like him committing a crime, him being hurt,
something,
or him just not playing well, and he can't get it like any momentum going. And it's no skin off my back. I will never be rooting for the guy. So don't think that I feel bad for the Cleveland Browns. Not at all. They're the ones who paid this guy. They're the ones who gave him guaranteed money. They put themselves in this situation, and they're going to have to deal with it.
Hard to argue anything you just said, bro. And it's funny, too, because there was a time where I really wanted Deshaun Watson. He was my pick to come to the Kansas City Chiefs. I really wanted him. And I do think Houston, Deshaun Watson was a sight to behold. He was great, man. He was
incredible.
Great. He was incredible. Incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, How to Ruin Your Career in 3 Easy Steps by Deshaun Watson. Coming to bookshelves here soon because he's destroyed his career. Now, I have no love for the Browns either. World of Matchups is basically usually coming from a standpoint of handicapping games and betting, and I just know what I've seen over the years with most recently what happened this year, them taking apart the San Francisco 49ers in the dog pound, which the dog pound, if you've never been there, is I'd say a top 5 home field advantage. When they got it going, they got it going. Now, they're just the type of team that will never really do anything because of Deshaun Watson. What's their identity? You see, like when we think about the Browns, the first thing we go to is dissension personified. The worst contract I've ever seen in my life was given to Deshaun Watson. That's the worst contract I have ever seen in my life. Ever. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, it doesn't matter. And Spencer, think about this while I'm talking and tell me if there's a worse contract that you've ever seen in years of watching football. I have never seen one. They can't back out of it. They're stuck with this guy. Okay, and then to top it all off, he's always hurt. My goodness. So it's like you're paying a guy who's never on the field. Let's double down on that now and bring in NFL first-round bust Jerry Jeudy and pay him a boatload of money. I mean, if you want to just get paid, find a way on the Cleveland Browns because they're going to sign the check. Now, they have some good pieces. Amari Cooper has left the Raiders and turned himself into a solid football player. He's 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns every single year, where he was a model of inconsistency with the Raiders. He is now a model of consistency with Cleveland. The problem I have with the Cleveland Browns is that their offense is going to sputter. Nick Chubb, I think his career is done. I mean, everyone's talking about the rehab's going well. And, I mean, do you guys really, really believe that you're going to see Nick Chubb?
That injury last year was so nasty.
It's one of the worst. It's one, dude. It's like Joe Theismann.
It is one of the worst I've seen.
It's like Joe Theismann-esque. That ended Joe Theismann's career. I mean, we're talking about meat falling off the bone type of injury. If you really think for a second that Nick Chubb is coming back and he's going to be anything close to what he was, dude, I got some snow to sell you if you live in Antarctica. It's never going to happen. And so Jerome Ford's going to be the guy. I do like Njoku, even though he has come on a lot later in his career than a lot of people would have expected. The Joe Flacco Cinderella story won't happen again. He's gone. I mean, what do you have to rest your hat on? Stefanski's a defensive-minded coach, and their defense is solid, man.
So good.
So good. I mean, Myles Garrett is as good as anyone. Denzel Ward is good. I mean, they are good. Juan Thornhill is solid free safety. I mean, they have good players, Spencer. They do. You know, when they managed to go to the playoffs last year and they got their doors blown off by a Houston defense that I don't think was really necessarily that good. They just played poorly. Flacco just played poorly. Here they're expecting to run it back. I think it all starts and ends with the quarterback staying healthy, and if he'll be a shell of his former self, and I don't think it's going to happen at all. Let's pull up this schedule and see what we're popping with here. See how many wins we can find for the dog pound in the black and blue division. They open up. They got the boys on the road. Boy.
Well, it looks like they're home.
That's a home game. So I'm going to give them that game. I don't think Dallas is going to be as good as everyone thinks they're going to be. An aging Zeke on the road. I like I said, man, this dog pound team at home is so much better than people think. At home, the Browns can beat anyone. I had the Chiefs losing to the Browns this year in the dog pound. They can beat anybody. I'm telling you, a different team at home. I'm going to give them that win. Jacksonville, to me, has to show me something. I'm going to give them an L there. Jacksonville home opener, I think they're going to be a lot tougher. Obviously, I think they're going to beat the New York Football Giants. They should have no problem beating them. Then they got a 3-game road swing here where they have to win 2 out of 3 of these games. I'm going to give them a loss to the Raiders. I'm going to give them a win versus the Commanders. I'm going to give them a loss to the Eagles. Then they got a 3-game home streak, which is going to be very, very difficult as well. They're going to lose to the Bengals and the Ravens in consecutive weeks, and they're going to bounce back and beat the Chargers at home. Then they're going to go into the bye off that. They should beat the Saints in New Orleans, but that's no gimme. I'm only saying that because Derek Carr is the quarterback. Their defense should be all over. Their defense is enough to overwhelm a struggling offensive line and Derek Carr in his swan song. I'm giving them a win there. Pittsburgh at home, they should win this game. They should win this game, man, but that's a coin flip. They're going to beat the Denver Broncos sandwiched into Pittsburgh on the road. So they're beating Pittsburgh one of those 2 times. They're not going to get swept. I would think they're going to beat Kansas City. That's going to be a very big game that they're going to be fired up for. They know that they're running out of time to make seeding count in the playoffs. They're going to win that game. I really feel strongly about it. I mean, I love my Chiefs. I would be even willing to bet money on that game. Deshaun Watson's tired of hearing about Patrick Mahomes. If he's still upright, they're going to come hard in that game. Their defense is overwhelming and they can suffocate a quarterback. And I'm not so sure if the Chiefs bookends are still going to be any good. They won the Super Bowl despite how bad Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith played all year long. I like Cleveland in that game. They come back on the road again. I think this is the type of game where everyone's going to expect Joe Burrow and those wide receivers to destroy Cleveland. I think Cleveland's going to win this game. I think they're going to lose to Miami. Miami is better than people think offensively. That's a game everyone's going to expect Cleveland to win, and I think they're going to turn around and they're going to finish their season with a loss to the Ravens. I think the Ravens might sweep this division. The Ravens are going to be out for blood after how they got embarrassed in the AFC Championship game. Everyone lost money on that, well, except me, of course, but everybody took a bath on that, and the Ravens are going to be out for blood. I'm a little worried about Lamar and him slimming down, but I think the dog pound is going to have a very meh type year, man. I mean, do I smell 10 wins? Probably 9 to 10. Stefanski was in the running for Coach of the Year. Was he Coach of the Year? Kevin Stefanski is a good coach. He's a very good coach. He's a good coach. Dude, I would take Kevin Stefanski any day. But he's not an offensive-minded coach. He is, like I said, the black and blue division is the black and blue division for a reason because you have coaches like this. And I'm just not galvanized by anything they've done, man. Their offseason had really – what's the big pop that happened to them this offseason? There's just nothing about them that really galvanizes me. It's just everyone hoping Deshaun Watson will be the Deshaun Watson of old, and I just don't see it. I'm not picking up what they're putting down. And, you know, I don't smell what The Rock is cooking in Cleveland at all, man. Like, at all, not even for a second. If they go to the playoffs – I think they could be one and done. I never see this team going deeper than the divisional round under any circumstances, and that's if everything breaks right.
All right, let's jump over to the next team here. That is the Cincinnati Bengals. Kind of a low-key offseason. They did lose Tyler Boyd, which had kind of been a mainstay at the wide receiver 3 position. But that's football. You're just never going to be able to keep those guys around forever. So I think they ended up drafting someone in the 3rd round to kind of play that role, which sounds about right. It sounds about kind of how you trim the fat a little bit on a roster. They lost DJ Reader. He had been a pretty big impact defensive tackle for them for a while. Their big signing, of course, was Trent Brown. So they have their giant guys at the bookends. It's been a huge part of Joe Burrow's problem in the beginning part of his career. He lost him a Super Bowl, actually, having a bad offensive line. Last play of the game, that they didn't have a chance. So theoretically got that figured out, but we're still talking about the embers of that Super Bowl. Like, even I am. Like, I don't know what else to say because they're constantly just like having to throw away seasons, which is terrible. And just say like, oh, we can't do it this year. Joe Burrow's out, like, and we're like, okay, well, can they get back to what they were like in the Super Bowl? Like, that's the only thing you can go back on because they've just had so many non-seasons since then. Where just like nothing happens, or they have to put it on hold and just wait until the next one to come around, which is just obviously not a good way to run your football team. And I know that's not how they prefer it to happen, but yeah, this team is kind of just in limbo. It's the only way to describe it. They did lose Joe Mixon, which I think is fine personally. I think he was starting to slow down naturally. So they picked up Zach Moss, who had some great games last year. I think that's a pretty decent pickup, or at least comparable in terms of production. I think they're not really a run-heavy team, though. They don't necessarily run the ball that much for very obvious reasons. They have like the best wide receiver tandem in all of the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
So, and a great quarterback, but they got to keep him healthy. So I guess they invested in all the right areas. I'm just not sure. It's just so hard to say that it's going to pay off just because if you've been on their hype train for a while now, like you've just been disappointed like over and over again.
They're the bully that took your lunch money once and is still talking about it 4 years later. That's who the Cincinnati Bengals, they want to be the Kansas City Chiefs so badly. They walk around like they're the Kansas City Chiefs. And I got a real problem with this team, man. I mean, look, I'm all about puffing out my chest if I got the hardware to stand on it. And all I keep hearing about this team is if Joe Burrow only had one more second, Jamar is streaking down the sideline and we would have won that game. Yeah, but you didn't. You see what I mean? But you didn't. If my wife had a dick, she'd be my husband. There are no what ifs. There are no what ifs. And I keep hearing that with this team. Okay, now Joe Burrow, I've said this a bunch of times. I love Joe Burrow, man. Joe Burrow is it. I love the guy. But like, this is a what have you done for me lately league. And you have not been around. The best of ability is availability, and you have not been around. Okay, you have not been around. And quite frankly, I thought John Browning played just as good as Joe Burrow had ever played the last season when he came in. Bengals didn't miss a beat. Okay, so I think this guy needs to go on and have an MVP type season because you're walking around with the Cam Newton hat on and you're like, you want to be it, but like, are you it? What's the hardware? The signature win that you have, I'm willing to give you, but I think it's more about what Kansas City didn't do versus what you did do to beat them to go to the AFC Championship game and then get to the Super Bowl and lose. Look, nobody cares that you got to the Super Bowl if you don't win it, man. Ask the Buffalo Bills. You know what I mean? Nobody cares. And so, yes, they've made all the right moves. Letting Mixon walk, very important. Let him go, man. He would want too much money. And quite frankly, Joe Mixon is a minor head case. They got Chase Brown, who I really, really like. Zach Moss is very underrated. They draft Amarius Mims. You need to protect Burrow. We have made this perfectly clear. You cannot have your $5 trillion investment on the ground. So they're going to do everything they can to keep him upright. You overpaid T. Higgins because you know if he didn't, he was going to turn into Antonio Brown and Stephon Diggs and just be a complete distraction all season long. So you overpaid that guy. You know what I mean? Jamar is going to be as good as anybody. He could be the top point getter this year in the NFL. Is the defense good enough? You know, Hendrickson wanted out. There's a lot of dissension happening, man. Zach Taylor has his hands full here. They bring in Gesicki. I mean, they literally are doing everything they're supposed to do, man. They're loading up. But at the end of the day, I have to see it. I have to see it. And until I see it, I'm going to be very skeptical. I don't think their defense is good enough. I really don't. And I think that this is a team that got really full of themselves the last couple of years because they've had some nice wins. They've gone on the road. They beat the Bills in the snow. You know what I mean? They just walk around with this chip on their shoulder. Guys, hardware is what matters. No one's going to remember that you got a big win when it was cold outside unless you bring it home. You know what I mean? Like, I could go to the dance with the prom queen, but if another dude is driving her home, like, what does that matter? And that's who the Cincinnati Bengals are. So I really need to see a lot from them. I do think they'll have a good year, but I think we got to be careful anointing them coming out of, the North as champs, because I don't think they have enough, man. Let's pull their schedule up and see what they're working with. There's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of have to have happen type things before I'm going to feel a lot better about what this team is putting down. Now they get a gimme opening day. You know what I mean? They're going to beat the Patriots by 2-3 touchdowns. That shouldn't be a problem. I do think they're going to lose on the road to Kansas City. These teams hate each other. There's no love lost. At this point, when these two teams play, to me, it's just about who's home and who's away. Home team is going to win. The away team is going to lose more times than not. If they play 10 times, that's going to be the outcome of the 10 times, in my estimation. They're going to beat up on the Commanders, and then they're going to turn around and beat up on the Carolina Panthers. I mean, these are JV teams. They get out
the
of
AFC
the
North is
gate.
a very favorable schedule this
Favorable
year.
schedule this year. So, right off the bat, they're going to probably be a 10-win team, but what happens in the playoffs is what I'm going to really want to see. I think they're going to probably beat the Ravens here in their building. They're going to beat the Giants. They'll probably lose to the Bengals on the road. I think I had this game circled on my top 10 games of the year, and I think the Eagles are going to go into Cincinnati and win this game. I really like the Eagles and Lions in the NFC Championship game this year. I think the Niners are on their way out. Raiders, they should win, man. But something tells me the Raiders could flip this game. This is the type of game where everyone's going to be on the Bengals, and I think the Raiders could win
especially
this
if their
game.
Offensive line, like the Raiders just have a different
animal this year.
There are times when defensive lines can control games.
Yes.
The Raiders haven't had in a long time.
Yes.
I think you're going to see that this year.
The Raiders are coming for blood this year. Guys, I'm telling you right now, I'm no lover of the Raiders, but I know what I'm talking about. I've seen these shifts go. The questions that you needed for the Raiders have been answered. Coaches there, offensive linemen there, they have a theory and they have a vision of what they want to do. And I think by this time, it could be coming to fruition. And if your offensive line can't protect your quarterback, Joe Burrow's in for a long day there. I'm going to give the Raiders that game. I think they're going to lose to the Ravens the next week. They should beat the Chargers, and then they're on their bye. So the favorable part of this schedule is early. It's very, very similar to the Steelers, okay? Then they got the Steelers at home. They should win that game. I'm going to give them a loss to the Dallas Cowboys on the road. I'm going to give them a loss to the Titans here, too. Titans are very slept on, man. Titans have a good offense here.
I'm telling you, that week one matchup, Bears-Titans, I'm getting
Titans
more excited
are going to be better.
About it.
Guys, whatever the Titans' overs are, I think I'm going to take it this year. I think they're going to be a lot better than people think. I think Will Levis is going to take an enormous jump in his second year. I'm telling you, watch out for the Titans. Then they get the Browns in their building. They should beat the Browns, but who knows, man? That could go any way. You just don't know. Then you got the Denver Broncos. They should beat. Then they got the Pittsburgh Steelers, which that's a coin flip game on the road, man. That's the type of game. What seed are we going to be to end the season? Who knows which way that's going to go. I'm going to take the Steelers there because at home, the Steelers are like the Browns. These teams are just better in their building. Their fan bases show up. Kansas City, Philadelphia, Denver, Pittsburgh, Seattle. These are some of the best home field advantages in the National Football League. I can't give them a win there. So their schedule's front loaded. I see 9 to 10 wins. They should. I mean, they should, man. With everything that they have coming back, Joe Burrow is upright. T. Higgins on one side, Jamar Chase on the other side. For me, it's about their defense and their coaching this year. And their health.
Division battles are going to be crazy this year. I mean, it's going to come down to the wire.
It really is, man. And if one game goes the wrong way, this team could find themselves on the road instead of at home. I don't love the Bengals. I just need to see more, man. Like, I'm not up. Talk shit, dude. You know what I mean? But please be able to back it up. You know what I mean? Like, I talk a lot, man. I make crazy takes a lot, but a lot of these things, they come to pass, Spencer. There's no denying it. Since you've known me, this is going to be true. All my homeboys know it. Fantasy, real life. If someone thinks one thing, I'll go the other way. I'll stand on it 10 toes down by myself. And a lot of these times, they come to pass. I have to see that from the Cincinnati Bengals, man. I have to. And if they have another year where it's like they just squeak into the playoffs and they find themselves on the outs or someone gets hurt, you could say goodbye to Hendrickson. You could say goodbye to Higgins, and they're not going anywhere. Because when you pay a guy like Joe Burrow that much money, and then you have to pay Jamar. I mean, you have to pay Chase. You have to pay Jamar. There's not going to be nothing left for anyone else, and your chances of winning a Super Bowl are done. If it's not a rookie deal, you can pretty much forget about it. Patrick Mahomes has proved that. And look at all these quarterbacks making more money than him. He's taking a haircut and living off his endorsements because he wants to win. These other teams are not doing that, and I don't think they're going to have a real legit chance. I mean, just to get out of the North, Spencer, you know what I mean? That's a Super Bowl run just getting out of the North. Right. Then you have to go to the playoffs. You know how beat up these guys are going to be. But a team like Kansas City don't really have to worry about that because they're playing the Broncos twice. They're playing the Chargers twice. They'll split with the Raiders. These guys, it's Ali Frazier every week. I think I'm standing on this. The North is the best division in all of football. I think the Bengals could be in trouble.
Just from top to bottom, yeah. It's just quality from top to bottom.
Solid.
All right, let's round this out with the Ravens. Not much in the offseason.
Fraudulent-ass Ravens.
So they lost Geno Stone. I think he went to the Bengals. I didn't mention that, but I talked about how there are a lot of in-division switching around, so that was another one of them. They lost Clowney. I mean, I don't know how much you think of an impact that is, but
they lost Queen.
They lost big. Patrick Queen.
That's big.
Who goes to the Steelers. I mean, it kind of sends a bad message for some reason. I mean, I know that's not really how it works. Like, these guys are
money
agents, but
they don't want to pay him.
Yeah, the fact that they were willing to go to someone in division kind of, I think, tells you a little bit, maybe, for sure. I think Patrick Queen, I think specifically kind of talked about, I wanted to stay in division. So there's a little bit of bad blood somewhere in the division. They had a lot of departures. And, their big offseason acquisition was Derrick Henry. They also lost J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, so they're completely changing their running back room. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, I'm just not super convinced that they're Derrick Henry away from making a Super Bowl run. I just feel like that's how the Steelers or the Ravens run their team. They'll get these guys, and I'm like, yeah, okay, he's pretty good. And then I think, well, when we think back to that game that they lost, were they Derrick Henry away from winning that game?
They didn't run the ball.
I'm not convinced,
Me either.
I think they still need a good wide receiver. Still, even to this day. They have all these little tiny receivers. It's man, they just years and years and years go by, and they just will not change their mentality when it comes to building their team. I mean, just look at the success. Even just having, and I like their wide receiver who they drafted, but you still need a big guy, And I know they have Mark Andrews too, who's also been hurt just so much recently.
He's always hurt, bro.
Just can't stay on the field. He's so talented, but what's that worth when you're not on the field anymore?
It's always hurt.
And, they're going to be good. They're going to have plenty of wins in the regular season. I just feel like they're headed back to the same destiny as they always do. There's 11 wins, 12 wins, and then you're like, I kind of don't think they're going to win this first-round matchup. That's just how I feel about the Ravens.
Mm-hmm. I see the Ravens as being a team that blew their opportunity. The year for the Ravens to win the Super Bowl was last year, and they blew it. The single most important game that took place in the NFL playoffs last year was Chiefs at Ravens. And they blew it. They blew it. They saw Patrick Mahomes, and they froze. They forgot it. I mean, everything was on their side. The weather was lousy. It was cold. T-Pain was there. Ray Lewis gave the pregame speech. T-Sizzle was in the house. I mean, they did everything they could. Ed Reed was there. I mean, every Baltimore great in the history. Jonathan Ogden was in the stands. I mean, it was set up for them to steamroll Kansas City. and they saw Patrick Mahomes and they froze. They ran the ball 6 times and they blew a absolutely golden chance to go to the Super Bowl. And I think if they would have gone to the Super Bowl, they would have won the Super Bowl. That just shows you the greatness of a guy like Patrick Mahomes, the aura that he brings, the mystique that he brings, and just the mindset that the Chiefs had during that historic run. No one wanted to see this team win. The whole world wanted to see the Ravens go, and they blew it. Do I think they're better this year? I don't, man. Now, I know about Derrick Henry, but at age 30, that's where running backs fall off a cliff in my estimation. Next to the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles, the Ravens might have the best run scheme in the league, but Lamar is going to vulture a lot of those. And I'm just not sold on a 30-year-old running back. It's a nice place to go and try to get a ring. I'm not hating it, but I just don't see it. I mean, if Zay Flowers gets hurt, look at their wide receiver room. I thought for sure they were taking Adonai Mitchell, and they took Nate Wiggins. I don't even think they needed Nate Wiggins because defense is not the problem on this team. So you get rid of Dobbins. So you get rid of Gus Edwards. Those guys are no big losses because now you bring in Henry. But who are your wide receivers? Nelson Aguilar? Nelson Aguilar has been nothing but a wide receiver 3 his entire career. Odell is gone, which to me is a very underrated loss. Because say what you want about Beckham, but I saw what Beckham was doing in the Super Bowl with the Rams. That guy can still play. Rashad Bateman is an absolute bum. And you just paid this guy. You just gave this guy a 2-year deal. The guy catches 25 balls a year. I mean, how long are we going to wait for Rashad Bateman? I mean, you Ravens fans are delusional if you think this guy's ever going to be good. And Mark Andrews is always hurt. Now, if this team was smart, they would run more 12 and 13 personnel with Isaiah Likely and Andrews on the field at the same time. But they don't seem to really want to do that. And I think it's going to cost them when it counts. I think it's going to cost them. We know their defense is going to be really good. Harbaugh is a solid coach. But sometimes you have to look back and be like, man, I should have shot my shot and I didn't. And now that girl is with somebody else. I should have opened my mouth and professed my love. And now she's getting married to someone else. That's the Ravens. Man, we should have ran the ball like Kansas City because run D is their weakness. And we didn't. 6 times in a playoff game when that is your identity is a felony. It's a felony. And it'll be one of the biggest regrets that Coach Harbaugh has in his career because they would have gone to the Super Bowl, and I think they would have rolled the Niners. They rolled the Niners in San Francisco earlier, so we know they can do it. And they weren't even 100% when they did that. So I think this team could be in a little trouble as well. Boy, this black and blue division has like 9 or 10 wins written on every single team if it breaks right. Easily, but I just don't believe, especially
someone will fall off the wagon for sure.
Exactly.
Of these teams we're talking, one of them is going to fall.
One of them's going to fall off, and I could see like I don't know if you've seen Lamar recently. He's really slimmed down. Him and Tua,
really.
Like there's this off-season thing where like we went from bulking to now we're going to slim down and just try to be more elusive, faster. I don't know if that necessarily is going to help him. When he was younger, it was just about, well, you can't catch the guy. But I mean, he's not that young anymore. Lamar Jackson's a seasoned veteran now, and you have to be able to take hits in the National Football League. I mean, people laugh at Dad Bod Mahomes, but Mahomes is the toughest quarterback in the league. The guy's played through wars and still shown up on the other side. Will a skinny Lamar now be able to do that? I'm not so sure. The guy's accuracy,
to throw the ball better,
and
man.
he can't.
It's his shortcoming. Like you can say anything you want about Lamar.
It's his shortcoming.
The most important parts of his career, he just had like thrown bad balls, like plain and simple.
When you absolutely have to have a good ball in the end zone from Lamar Jackson, you don't get it. The ball he threw to Devin Bush in the Chiefs-Ravens, AFC Championship, he threw it right to him. He threw it into triple coverage. Dude, what are you doing? You are a 2-time MVP going away, but when we have to absolutely have it, we never get it. We never get it. And I don't think it's going to change this year. I do think they will win the North, but it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't. And I think they're going to probably be a road team that will probably have to go someplace like Houston. And I'm not so sure that they can win that game. I mean, this opening day versus Kansas City is going to be very, very telling. How that game ends up is going to tell you a lot about the Ravens season. Opening day, Thursday night, September 5th. They run it back with KC. I'm giving them a loss there. Chiefs will win a hard-fought game in their building. They're not losing back-to-back banner drops. I don't care what that spread says. Harrison Butker will kick that from the parking lot if he has to. They're losing that game. Next week, they should win their home opener versus the Raiders. They should.
Yeah. This Raiders game is going to be.
They're a better team than the Raiders.
For both
yes.
Teams, yeah.
If this game was in Allegiant Stadium, I might think differently about it. But as their home opener, they're not going to lose another game. Their home opener, they're not. Week after that, they have to go to Dallas. I think Dallas is going to win that game, dude.
You got a tough schedule to start out, man.
Yeah, tough schedule to start out. They got the Bills in their building. Everyone was telling me that this was going to be the AFC Championship game. As bad as I think the Bills are going to be right now, they're going to be in that game. But I would take the Bills with the points, but I think the Ravens get the dub. I think they get the dub against Cincinnati. I think the following week on the road, they get the dub versus the Commanders. Monday night, it wouldn't surprise me to see them lay an egg here versus Tampa. I'm going to give Tampa that W. Tampa gets these wins that no one thinks they're going to get.
Those home games, man, are different for Tampa Bay.
Tampa just gets these wins, man. It's so weird. Next week, they're home again versus Cleveland. That's a dub. Following week, they're on the road versus the Broncos. That's a dub. Then they turn around and play Thursday night in Cincinnati. They're taking an L there. I think they're going to take an L versus Pittsburgh at home there. No team is going undefeated at home. This is the NFL with these new rules. They're going to do everything to have the parity at its highest. Monday Night Football, the Harbaugh Bowl, they're going to win that game on the road, but that's going to be very entertaining. Sunday, December 1st on the road, they're losing to the Eagles. They got a late bye this team, which is going to really help them a lot. Late bye is going to help them a lot. Then they come off the bye. They're going to destroy the Giants. I think they're going to probably beat Pittsburgh on the road. I think a lot of these AFC North teams are going to split, and it's going to be an alternate split. They're going to lose at home, win on the road type thing. They're going to lose Wednesday, December 25th versus the Houston Texans. And then they got to be determined the time they're going to finish off with the Browns, which, again, these teams all finish with an AFC North game, the last game of the year, which is going to decide seeding. The Ravens may they may need this game, and they're going to be in the dog pound. It's going to be cold. It's going to be loud. There's no love lost between these two teams. I'm going to give them an L there, man. So, again, 9 wins, 10 wins. I think when you miss your shot as badly as the Ravens did last year, coming back with all these changes to try to make it happen is going to be very, very difficult. And I think the one area that they really needed to address was wide receiver, and they didn't. The Devin Duvernays of the world, the Rashad Batemans of the world, dude, go get a receiver. Go get Brian Thomas Jr. Go get Adonai Mitchell. Go get a receiver. Go even get Xavier Worthy. Go get a receiver. Get someone that can give Zay Flowers some breathing room out there on the other side of the field. And they just refuse to do it. They don't need Nate Wiggins. I think that was a terrible pick. I know Wiggins is highly recruited and very, very good in some aspects, but they didn't need it. They didn't need it. It's not like the Raiders where it was BPA and they were just like, well, everyone we want is gone, so we're just going to take Bowers just to be dicks. We'll find a way to use him. Dude, there was so much wide receiver talent on the board, and they took Nate Wiggins. I think that could be the death of the Ravens because when you got to have it, who's getting open? You saw it happen with Zay Flowers. After L'Jarius Sneed punched that ball out, they fell apart. They fell apart. They didn't know what to do. This is a team that did not handle dissension well because they're just so used to being up. They're so used to just running out the clock. They're not used to having to battle back from behind. Now Lamar throws the pick. Now you fumble the ball again. Championship pedigree teams like the Kansas City Chiefs will always beat the Ravens. I will stand on that 10 toes down. Home, road, sun, rain, it doesn't matter. Guys, I've said it before and I will continue to say it, and you can continue to call me crazy. Lamar Jackson is not a winner. I know he has MVPs. MVPs do not make you a winner. MVPs give you MVPs. Winning in the playoffs when you go to Buffalo. Winning in the playoffs when you go to Kansas City. Winning at home when you play Kansas City. Winning a Super Bowl. That makes you a winner. That makes you a winner. Don't talk to me about MVPs. Okay? MVPs are amazing. But what matters when it counts? Look at Aaron Rodgers. I take Eli Manning's 2 rings over Aaron Rodgers' 1 ring and 4 MVPs any day of the year. Rings are what people remember. And if you think I'm crazy for it, so be it. I will never back off that. Lamar to me is a lot of stats. And that's cool if that's what you want in Baltimore. But if you want to win a ring, I think you've gone about it the wrong way. Defense was not your issue. Derrick Henry wouldn't have mattered if Derrick Henry was on the field in the AFC Championship game. It wouldn't have mattered. You didn't run the ball. You forgot who you were, and you lost that game. And so I see 9 wins, 10 wins, and I see something similar. If they don't have a home game, they're in trouble, Spencer. They're in trouble.
Oh, yeah, they're going to need it. I mean, this team goes as far as Lamar Jackson. So it's just like, it's so crazy. I mean, it's just like lost to the Tennessee Titans.
Titans.
Like, he didn't play well against the Chiefs, like plain and simple. Like,
Period.
He didn't have a good game.
Period.
You know,
and
the fumble
period.
obviously changed the game, but I mean, he never even recovered. I mean, even just other parts of the game, you just watch him, man. Like passes just sail.
Why do we keep giving Lamar Jackson a pass? And guys, understand what I'm saying. I'm not hating on him.
We've like begged Lamar Jackson to prove us wrong, and we bet against him every time because we have this mentality that he can't do it, and we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it hasn't yet. Has not happened once.
You lost to Ryan Tannehill in your building. Then you go to Buffalo in the playoffs, and Josh Allen pushes your shit all the way in. Then you're home versus Patrick Mahomes. Prove me wrong, dude. Win a big game versus a top-tier team anywhere. Anywhere. I don't care about the regular season, man. What matters to big ballers is what happens in the postseason when it's cold and when you're up against it, when you're down 10. When you're down 10. Talk to Patrick Mahomes about being down 10. When you're down 10, what do? That's why they're paying you these millions, and I never see you show up. Ever. And then the next time I see it will be the first time. And so I want to like the Ravens to win this division. You'll get better plus odds if you pick someone like the Steelers or even the Bengals because no one thinks they can, and I think they can because the Ravens just don't scare me anymore. The last year's Ravens was the pick to go to the Super Bowl, and they blew it.
That was their opportunity.
And they blew it. Can you pull up over-unders for these guys for wins?
Let's see. I can pull it up on my phone here. I got the William Hill app.
You got the William Hill? Let's see what William Hill says.
I'll go and see whatever team I can find first. Pittsburgh Steelers over under 8.5. I mean,
I'm going over. There. I love the over on that.
Cleveland Browns 8.5 as well.
I think they'll just go over.
That'll be close. That might be one that I've been staying away from. Let's see, the next team on my list here is the Cincinnati Bengals. They're at 10.5. Seems pretty steep.
I'm gonna go under.
Yeah, it seems. And then the Ravens are 11 wins. Woo.
I'm going under. I could see both these teams winning 10 games and you getting burned on those bets.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't think so because they're both expected to have huge. I mean, the Bengals are supposed to have a really big bounce back season here, and everybody just thinks that Lamar is just going to find his way back to the AFC Championship game. Guys, until I see it with my own 2 eyes, I'm going to keep splitting hairs with this deal. I'm going to keep coming on here and saying what I'm saying. You guys all called me crazy. You got me going nuts. This guy at my restaurant was going to bet me $1,000 the Ravens going to roll up. Like, bro, you are mistaken. You are not just playing anybody. You are playing the best football player in the world with a chip on his shoulder, and you're giving me 4 points. You're out of your mind. And the Chiefs won the game going away. I don't know. I think it's going to be a very interesting season. Parting shots.
Yeah, I mean, I think the division's going to be decided by those divisional games. And I think that even if one team falls off the wagon, like those divisional games they could still lose them. Like, it's just like one of those divisions where it doesn't matter how good or bad the team is playing, like in that moment, like when you play them that week. I think back to like I remember this game where I forget what it's Ryan Mallett had suited up like the day before to play for the Ravens, and he beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, it's just like one of those, and
Yep.
I don't know. I guess the Ravens just have this unstoppable regular season run that they've been going on. But I feel that like one year it's going to fall off. And I just feel like they just didn't do enough this season. And I feel like everyone else in their division did a lot more. Like, I think the Ravens got worse overall.
What happens if Derrick Henry gets hurt?
Yeah.
What happens if Zay Flowers gets hurt?
It's going to be rough for them at that point.
How are they going to score points? You see what I mean? How are they going to score points? My parting shot is, it's the time of year where I'm like looking at my budget for being happy watching football. And this is really out of control. I mean, fantasy money aside, I'm talking about I want to just be able to turn on the TV and watch whatever game is on whenever it's on. And this is going to cost hundreds of dollars. And it's out of control. You did it? You pulled the plug? Yeah, I'm about to. And
I did YouTube TV.
Yeah, that's what I did last year. And, I got a deal on it because I did it early. This year, I'm kind of waiting and seeing because a lot of time, I might be going to a lot of games. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of waiting on it. I haven't really pulled the trigger on it. Dude, this is ridiculous. I mean, look.
It's like cigarettes, man. Like, they know you're gonna buy it, dude.
This is ridiculous,
they can
man.
charge whatever they want for it.
It's so like buying a slice of pizza at the airport. It's gonna be $400. I mean, come on, dude. I mean, give us a break. You know what I mean? Like, freaking $500 for the package and another $80 a month for the attic. And then you got the games overseas, the games in Haiti or wherever else it's gonna be at. I mean,
Amazon Prime.
Come on, man. Paramount Plus. I mean, stop. My goodness. It seriously is going to get to the point where it's going to be pay-per-view for every single game. And like, as a fan of my team and a fan of the sport, I want to be able to have the red zone. I want to see what the other teams are doing. I'm not just like, I want to turn on the TV and see my game, but there really should be an option, especially for casuals who are just like, I just want to watch my team. And they're on the other side of the country, and I don't want to have to jailbreak my iPad to do it. Like, I don't want to have to do anything illegal to do it. There should be an option we could just pay to watch your team. This is out of control. I mean,
there's a lawsuit going on right now.
There's a lawsuit going on. Yeah, that's what I was about to get to, which could really, if it swings, they've been trying to sue the NFL for years over this. And if it swings the right way, it could make it so that we're now paying less. But this is out of control, man. I mean, my goodness, how much money do you guys need? The NFL prints money. Roger Goodell's salary annually is over $20 million. I mean, give us a break, dude. Your owners are beyond rich. You're so rich that you wipe your ass with money. And then the little guy wants to go to the game, pay for the game, pay for the concessions, pay for parking.
At this point, man.
My wedding costs more. I mean, costs less than some of this stuff. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, they're really $20,000 for a tailgate room. I don't know.
Dude, it's debilitating when you look at your. I mean, it's not even July yet.
It's being gentrified, That's what
dude. Not even July yet, and I'm looking my budget for what all this stuff is going to cost. I mean, just the games, the games. You know what I mean? It's a little much, man, and it's unfair. So big gas face goes out to the NFL and all the promoters and all the streaming, all these different ways you can have to pay to watch. You guys can kiss my ass, dude. This is ridiculous. At this point, it's like I'd rather just go to the game than be raped the way you guys are going about it. It is absolutely done. Spencer already took the plunge. I'm acting like I'm not going to take the plunge, but I'm kind of holding out. Maybe they'll see that I'm like maybe not going to do it and might throw me $100 bone at the beginning of the season. You know what I mean? Because I've always done it. But I don't know. I'm going to opening day, so I may not do it till I get back. We'll see. But it's just ridiculous that you should have to even be part of like jailbreaking and using, suspect apps to watch football. This is America's game. When I was a kid, I used to turn on the TV, Channel 4, and the Giants were on TV.
Yeah.
Period. Period. And it just goes to show you how screwed up this world is. Who you want to do next week? You want to do the South?
Yeah, we'll just keep the AFC rolling here.
AFC South coming to you live and direct. World of Matchups, bringing you guys the heat live and direct every week from Las Vegas, Nevada. The South Breakdown is coming to you guys next week. Like, subscribe, share the video. If there's any questions you guys may have, leave in the comments, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks for supporting us, and we are out.
See you guys.
Good job, Spencer. South